Alright hunters, let's talk weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds. You know the deal. Every weapon in the game can take down a monster, but let's be honest. Some just feel smoother, stronger, and way more fun to use. Whether you're into heavy-hitting greatswords, flashy dual blades, or the "why does this even exist but I love it" hunting horn, picking your main weapon is half the adventure. And hey, nobody wants to waste upgrade materials on something they'll drop 2 hunts later. So in this video, we're breaking down all 14 weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds and ranking them into a tier list. Think of it as your shortcut to figuring out which weapon actually fits your style, and maybe even gives you that extra edge in a tough hunt. No boring explanations, no dragging it out, just the good stuff so you can jump in and start swinging, blasting, or slicing like a pro. Stick around, because by the end, you'll know exactly which weapon deserves to be your go-to. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Hunting Horn and Lance. Alright, let's talk about 2 weapons that don't always steal the spotlight, but absolutely deserve a seat at the table. The Hunting Horn and the Lance. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, "Oh great, the Band Geek and the Human Shield," hear me out. These weapons might not be the flashiest in Monster Hunter Wilds, but they bring some seriously unique value that the heavy hitters just cannot replicate. Starting with the Hunting Horn. It is often labeled as a support weapon, but calling it just that is like saying pizza is just bread with toppings. Technically true, but wildly underselling it. The horn lets you buff your teammates with attack up, earplugs, and even stamina use reduction depending on which horn you bring into the hunt. And then there is the Echo Bubble, which adds even more variety to your supportive toolkit. If you are playing with friends, this weapon turns you into the MVP who keeps the whole squad going strong. But here is the catch. The Hunting Horn does require a little extra finesse. You need to stack notes, hit the right inputs, and maintain a rhythm if you want to pull off its best damage potential. It is not the fastest, and it is not the hardest hitting weapon out there. Still, when you master it, the feeling is unmatched. You are not just dealing damage, you are basically conducting an orchestra while slapping monsters in the face. Now, let's move on to the Lance. The Lance has always been seen as that quiet kid in the back of the classroom. Does not make much noise, but when called on, delivers straight facts. In Wilds, the Lance has actually gotten some much needed love. With the triple thrust, payback thrust, and the charge counter, it is finally capable of dishing out more damage than before, while still keeping its defensive core. What makes the Lance really fun this time around is its improved mobility. Gone are the days of feeling like you were glued to the ground with a tower shield. Now you can weave in guard moves, counterattacks, and keep pace with a monster's relentless assault. It is not flashy, sure, but that steady, consistent damage output? Chef's kiss. That being said, the Lance still lives in this weird good but not great category. Other weapons have all stepped up their game too, which makes it tough for the Lance to climb the rankings. But honestly, this is the best the Lance has ever been. If you have ever wanted to try it, now is the perfect time. It is like finally seeing that quiet kid take the stage and crush karaoke night. You never saw it coming, but you cannot help but respect it. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, dual blades, light bowgun, switch axe, and hammer. If B tier weapons were the underdogs with hidden charm, then A tier is where things start to feel spicy. These weapons bring raw speed, power, and versatility that can shine in almost any hunt. They are not quite god tier, but they are dangerously close. So let's break down the dual blades, light bowgun, switch axe, and hammer to see why they're sitting comfortably in A tier. Let's start with the dual blades. If weapons were dancers, these bad boys would be the breakdancers of Monster Hunter Wilds. They are flashy, ridiculously fast, and constantly in the monster's face with hit after hit, and thanks to the upgraded dodge roll during Demon Mode, you can now pull off perfect dodges that not only look stylish, but also reward you with damage boosts. Basically, you are weaving in and out like a ninja on caffeine. The coolest part about the dual blades in Wilds is how the blade dance combos have evolved. Instead of locking you into one super long sequence, they're now split into 3 distinct moves, and you can mix in Demon Flurry combos between them. That means you're not married to one combo anymore. You can keep the pressure high without losing your mobility. It feels fast, it feels smooth, and it feels powerful. Of course, the dual blades do come with a catch. Their range is basically social distancing, but the opposite. You need to be up close and personal at all times. To really make them shine, you'll need to stack elemental skills, because that is where their true damage potential lies. If you are willing to build around them, though, these blades are easily one of the most exciting and rewarding weapons to master. Now let's talk about the light bowgun. This weapon is the definition of nimble but deadly. With its brand new rapid-fire mode, you can unleash a stream of bullets into a monster's weak spots while dashing around like you are playing dodgeball with live ammunition. It is the perfect mix of mobility and damage, and for newer players, it is one of the easiest weapons to pick up and feel powerful with. What makes the light bowgun especially fun in Wilds is the focus shot, Eagle Strike Shot. It lets you target multiple wounds on a monster and shred them apart with precision. Combine that with burst steps to fire even faster and pierce ammunition for consistent, reliable damage, and suddenly you are a walking machine gun with style. That said, the light bowgun has been toned down compared to previous games. Critical distance is shorter, and you get fewer special ammo options, so it is not quite the unstoppable powerhouse it once was. But even with those nerfs, it still lands in a tier because of how flexible and effective it remains. Safe, consistent, and stylish. What more do you need? Switching gears. Pun fully intended. We have the Switch Axe. This weapon is all about transformation, long reach, and chunky, satisfying hits. It comes with knockback immunity and can absolutely dominate once you learn its mechanics. The trick is, there is a bit of a learning curve since you have to juggle multiple gauges at once. But do not worry. Practice makes perfect, and with this weapon, perfection feels incredible. One of the coolest updates to the Switch Axe in Wilds is the offset attack. This essentially gives you a strong counter move to punish monsters when they least expect it. Plus, the weapon's sidesteps are perfect for dodge-based playstyles, especially if you build around Evade Extender or Evade Window. The end result? You are not just a heavy-hitting warrior, you are a slippery one too. But here's the kicker. You do not actually need to play the Switch Axe mechanically to enjoy it. If you prefer, you can focus on the full release / playstyle, which is much easier to use. The downside is that it falls off against late-game monsters that move around like they drank too many energy drinks. Still, it gives the Switch Axe flexibility, which is why it has earned a safe spot in A tier. Last but definitely not least, the hammer. If you like weapons that go bonk and make monsters see stars, this is the weapon for you. The hammer has always been the king of knockouts, and in Wilds, it has only gotten better. With adjustments from Title Update 2, you can now use offset attacks on charged upswings and mighty charge upswings, making knockouts easier than ever. The hammer is simple, brutal, and oh so satisfying. The downside, though, is that the hammer has one of the shortest ranges in the entire game. You need to commit to your charges, manage your stamina for charge steps, and line up your mighty charge attacks. It takes effort to keep up with other weapons that dish out high damage with less risk. But when you land that perfect hit and the monster topples over, all of that effort feels worth it. So while these A-tier weapons may not quite hit S-tier status, they are powerful, versatile, and a blast to use. Dual blades give you speed and style, light bowgun offers precision and safety, Switch Axe delivers transformation chaos, and hammer brings the raw bonk energy. Honestly, if you are looking for a weapon that balances fun with effectiveness, a tier is where you should be shopping. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Heavy Bowgun, Sword and Shield, Insect Glaive, and Charge Blade. Now we have finally made it to the big leagues, S tier. These are the weapons that not only deal massive amounts of damage, but also bring unique mechanics, safety, or sheer versatility that put them above the rest. If A tier was the sweet spot for balance, then S tier is where the monsters start regretting their life choices. Let's kick things off with the Heavy Bowgun. This beast is basically a turret with legs. Sure, you move slower than a grandma hauling groceries uphill, but the damage you put out? Oh boy, it is worth every step. Thanks to the wounding mechanic and the insanely strong ignition mode, the Heavy Bowgun offers constant, reliable DPS that can melt through monsters once you get your setup going. What really pushes this weapon into S tier, though, is its versatility. With the right elemental ammunition and build, you are not just hitting hard, you are hitting smart. On top of that, support ammo like Paralysis and Demon ammo makes you a dream teammate in multiplayer hunts. You are not just dealing damage, you are locking monsters down and buffing your squad like some kind of walking weapons platform. Of course, mastering the heavy bowgun does take practice. Positioning is everything, and learning to manage your spacing is critical. But once you get used to the movement speed and spacing requirements, you will be throwing out explosions like a fireworks show. It is the ultimate high-risk, high-reward powerhouse that earns its S-tier placement with style. Next up, we have the Sword and Shield, the definition of reliability. This weapon does not need to scream for attention, because it is too busy quietly being good at everything. With more invincibility frames on the backstep and perfect guards that nullify almost any attack, the Sword and Shield is safer than ever before. If you are looking for comfort with strength, this is your weapon. And do not think safety means boring. The Sword and Shield has some seriously fun tools in Wilds. The new Charged Chop feels incredibly satisfying to land, and Perfect Rush is still the golden ticket for punishing openings with big damage. It is fast, fluid, and ridiculously versatile. The real beauty of the Sword and Shield, though, is its utility. You can cut tails, stun monsters, block attacks, and even pop healing items mid-fight without putting your weapon away. That level of flexibility is unmatched. It may not look as flashy as some of the bigger weapons, but make no mistake. This is the Swiss Army knife of Monster Hunter, and it fully deserves its S-tier spot. Now let's take things airborne with the Insect Glaive. If you have ever wanted to play Monster Hunter as a one-person air show, this is your weapon. The Insect Glaive thrives on aerial attacks, mixing in Kinsect buffs to push its versatility even further. It is not the easiest weapon to control since you need to juggle buffs and positioning, but when it clicks, it feels unstoppable. The biggest highlight in Wilds is the Spiral Slash. This new move lets you unleash massive damage at the cost of losing all your extracts. It is risky, sure, but it turns your build-up into a spectacular payoff. Add in the return of the Jumping Advancing Slash combo, and you are once again the undisputed king of mounting monsters. Few weapons can dominate the skies like this. What makes the Insect Glaive so special is how dynamic it feels. You are constantly switching between aerial combos, Kinsect management, and ground-based attacks. It is a weapon that rewards creativity, speed, and precision, and that combination keeps it sitting comfortably at the top of the tier list. Finally, we have the Charge Blade, the most complex, most intimidating, but also one of the most devastating weapons in the entire game. It is not something you pick up casually. It is something you commit to mastering. The reward? Explosive file damage from element discharges and savage multi-hit carnage with the Savage Axe mode. But let's be real, this is a methodological weapon. You need to study it like you are cramming for finals. Mess up your charging cycle and you lose damage. Miss a guard point and you might eat a monster's full combo. But when you nail it, when you pull off that perfect guard into a Savage Axe swing, you feel like the smartest hunter alive. It is high risk, high reward, and that is exactly why it deserves its S-tier crown. So there you have it, the Heavy Bowgun, Sword and Shield, Insect Glaive, and Charge Blade. 4 weapons that combine raw power, flexibility, and mastery to sit at the very top. They are not just good, they are the weapons that can change the entire flow of a hunt. If you are brave enough to wield them, congratulations, you are officially playing in S-tier territory. The weapons in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Gun Lance, Longsword, Bow, and Greatsword. Alright, this is where things get downright legendary. S+ tier weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds are the creme de la creme. These are the ones that not only pack absurd amounts of power, but also come with quality of life changes that make them smoother, faster, and in some cases, downright unfair in the best possible way. If you are looking for weapons that define the meta, you are looking right here. Let's start with the Gun Lance. For years, the Gun Lance has had that reputation of being clunky but devastating. In Wilds, though, it is a different beast. Now, you can not only guard like a fortress, but also counterattacks just by simply blocking. Combine that with explosive shelling and strong melee attacks, and suddenly you are both the shield and the cannon. What makes it even better is the newfound fluidity. You can now move while shelling, which makes the Gun Lance feel like it finally got a set of rollerblades. You are no longer glued to the ground praying you do not miss. Instead, you are aggressively sticking to the monster while blasting holes in it. It is offense, defense, and sheer style rolled into one package. Moving on to the Great Sword, the weapon that has always been about patience, timing, and one gigantic bonk. In Wilds, it is sitting comfortably at the top because of focus mode and the true charged slash changes. Instead of locking yourself into the old tackle combo, you can now chain multiple true charged slashes as long as you have wounds to break with focus slash, perforate, and it gets better. Thanks to focus mode, you can redirect your true charge slash mid-animation. No more heartbreak when a monster suddenly sidesteps out of your big hit. Now you can adjust on the fly and make sure that your giant sword finds its target. It is like turning a slow, clunky weapon into a guided missile. The Great Sword also has access to offset attacks and power clashes. These are not just flashy gimmicks, they open up windows for you to land that massive true charged slash combo. And let's be real, there are few things in this game as satisfying as watching a monster crumple under the weight of a perfectly timed Great Sword hit. Now let's talk about the Long Sword, one of the most stylish weapons in the franchise. This thing has been a fan favorite forever, and in Wilds, it has only gotten better. With Foresight Slash and EI Slash already being some of the best counters in the game, the new Spirit Charge makes it easier to level up your Spirit Gauge without the usual hassle. Once you max that gauge, you unlock the Crimson Slash, and let me tell you, this move hits like a truck. The Longsword has always been about building momentum, and now the payoff is even sweeter. Plus, it carries over Spirit Thrust from Iceborne and EI Spirit Slash from Sunbreak, making its moveset deeper and more versatile than ever. The Longsword sits in SS tier because it is everything hunters love in a weapon: flashy, effective, and incredibly satisfying when you time your counters correctly. Few things feel as cool as punishing a monster mid-attack with a perfectly timed slash that looks like it belongs in an anime cutscene. Finally, we have the bow. And wow, has this weapon evolved. Coatings are no longer just slapped on casually. Now they are tied to the new Trick Arrow gauge. This same gauge lets you fire tracer arrows, which make your follow-up shots home in on the target. In other words, you are not just shooting arrows anymore. You are basically a sniper with heat-seeking ammunition. The damage potential of the bow has skyrocketed because of these changes. But at the same time, the complexity has gone up too. You need to manage stamina, you need to manage the Trick Arrow gauge, and you need to make smart use of your coatings. It is not just about spamming arrows anymore. It is about mastering a system that rewards skillful play. That is why the bow belongs in SS tier. It is incredibly strong, it is incredibly stylish, and in the right hands, it is almost unfair to the monsters. If you want to feel like Legolas with a turbo boost, this is your weapon. So there you have it, the Gunlance, Great Sword, Long Sword, and Bow. 4 absolute juggernauts that define why SS tier exists in the first place. They have the power, the flexibility, and the mechanics that make hunts smoother, faster, and more devastating. These are the weapons that make monsters think twice about leaving their dens. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.